I know you're still dancing right here. Same here, what's happening in the studio. I mean, we couldn't just get enough of that really exciting performance from Gramophone Ghana. But of course, I mean, maybe we'll just go back to them to just get some more moves right. Yeah, but we'll have to continue the conversation. And joining us for a very important part of the show, or what we do here, trying to communicate to you very important health tips, health topics. Joining us in studio, a very favorite on our show. But before I even go ahead to even introduce and delve straight into the conversations we have for you today, very importantly, you got to take your phone, just send the hashtag Sunday Breakfast across all social media platforms, particularly X. You can send your message. We'll be glad to read all of it for you. Comments, questions. If you just think Eno is looking good, feel free, right? Yeah, it doesn't really hurt to send a message. We'll be glad to read all of it across for you. But joining us in studio, Doc, you're welcome.
Thank you.
It's funny. I mean, we started this with you and we are moving straight on, like straight on. There are no stopping points, no breaks. Like they say, no off days.
Yeah.
I feel you. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thanking you for
Hope
having
you had
me.
an exciting week.
Yeah, it was quite good, just a little tiring.
A little tired. Yeah. Does it ever not get tiring?
Yeah, that's the question.
So let me just give viewers a little picture. We started with head and neck cancers. First week, second week, we still delved a little into it the following week. Then we went into
head and neck infections.
Head and neck infections. Then now
we spoke about
bad breath. So we did the halitosis.
Yeah.
We did halitosis last week.
Yeah.
Yes. And now we are discussing common cold.
Yeah, and rhinosinusitis.
Someone pointed out to me that a lot of all we've done so far is just around the head.
Yeah.
When are we going to other body parts? But I'm sure we'll get there.
Yeah, we'll get there soon.
Wow. Common cold. Doc, I remember long ago I was told it's probably the only ailment that doesn't have a cure. Is that really the case?
Yeah, so mainly because of the fact that usually it's caused by viruses, a viral infection. And because of the viral infections, most of the time we do not want to give any antiviral agents. So rather we term it self-limiting. Self-limiting in the sense that you just need to give it some time and it would be able to get out of your system. Your body would be able to build immunity to be able to clear the infection, and once that is done, you are free from the
So there is no cure for common cold?
So I wouldn't say there is a cure for common cold, but there are complications with having untreated common cold. So most of the time, common cold are caused by viruses. And they tend to give you some symptoms like runny nose, symptoms like stuffy sinuses, symptoms like headaches, all of that. But the treatments usually that are given are supportive. Supportive in the sense that they treat the symptoms rather than the cause. You get it? So when you come in and you have, let's say, a headache, we are going to give you an analgesic that would help you, that will help reduce the headache. If you come in with fever, we are going to give you some antipyretics that will help reduce your temperatures so that your body would be able to build the immunity to clear the infection. Usually it's rhinoviruses, then we have the adenoviruses, we have the influenzas and all of that. But the other thing is that the danger with this is that if it is left there and then you tend to have somebody with a reduced immunity as well, you can have other organisms secondarily infecting these upper airway areas, and that can compound and then make it a bacterial infection or a mixed infection. So that is why there's a role of antibiotics in treating some of these common colds. And then classically, it's important that we are able to differentiate between common cold and then something that we call rhinosinusitis. So rhino means nose, and sinuses or sinusitis is inflammation of the sinuses or the air spaces. I'm sure we are familiar with this already.
Doc, I mean, I mean, forgive my ignorance again, right?
Sure.
But is that why we call them rhinoceros? Because they have the thing on their nose.
They have the...
You know the
I'm talking about the animal at this point.
Yeah, because never mind. Don't go
I
ahead.
get it, yes. So it's
Because they have the funny nose thing.
Exactly.
Wow.
So
That's their horn.
That was like, forgive my ignorance, but
Exactly.
yeah, fair enough. Doc, please go on.
Please go ahead.
Yeah, so then rhinosinusitis has to do with, it has classical symptoms that we need to be able to differentiate it with common cold.
Okay.
So they have similarities though. The similarities are that you end up having a runny nose. The similarities could also be that you end up having this stuffiness and blockade within your sinuses. And then sometimes you tend to have, in rhinosinusitis, which is more complicated, you tend to have what we call post-nasal drip. So because the passages within the sinuses and then the nose are blocked because of the infection, you tend to drain at the back of your mouth, inside your mouth. So you tend to have this discharges dripping at the back of your mouth. You get it. And then also, because of the infection and the inflammation, you tend to have tenderness or pain just behind your eyes, becomes heavy, painful, you know, or sometimes even just around your face. When you touch, you tend to have this pain. You get it. So if you have these classical three signs, together with maybe you came into the hospital and then we took some CT scans or some imaging that showed that there is some purulence or some what's the name? Some aspirates that are within the sinuses. You get it. Or sometimes you come in and then there's something we call anosmia or hyposmia. It was very, very common during the COVID, where you can't smell.
Wow.
Or you tend to have reduced smell sensation. So if you have any of these plus any of these three that I have mentioned, then we need to look at rhinosinusitis.
I don't come in shortly, but even before that, I have another very, just go ahead and ask me a question. I mean, why do we always say common cold, right? We don't say common stomach ache. We don't say common backache. We don't even say common headache, which I think is like one of the most common
things that you should
discomfort you'd feel within your body part. But we say common cold
because it's very prevalent.
That's all.
It's very, yes.
That's all the reason there is.
That's all the reason there is. Because of how frequently you can contract it.
Okay.
Okay, and it's one of the things that you can easily catch. So, and mainly because of how it is transmitted. Because of the aerosols. You can transmit it through aerosols. Somebody having contracted it and then you are close to the person breathes out droplets and then you breathe that in. You are breathing in the viruses and then that can also replicate and then you end up having this common cold. Also because of the fact that it can be droplets. Because it's droplets, somebody who already has it and tends to use other let's say an area, and then these droplets fall on objects, they become fomites, and then another person comes, uses the area, picks it up on their fingers, and then we have the habit of always going into around our face, touching our faces, exactly, hugging people, and then you end up with contracting it. So these are some of the ways by which you can contract it. So this brings me to the common jargon that we usually use, that anytime you have a cold, the teaching is that you do not use handkerchiefs because we are not sure of how you are going to clean those handkerchiefs or the reusable materials. Rather, we want you to use the disposable ones.
Okay.
Where we advise that what do you do anytime you think that you want to sneeze, you have to cover your mouth and your nose.
Okay.
With your tissue, which is disposable. So we call it, you are supposed to catch it. So you catch it with the tissue. And then when you finish sneezing into that tissue, don't hold it around, touching people, hugging people. No. The next thing you do is what? Bin it. So right from your face, it goes straight into the bin. And the next thing you do is what? To break the transmission cycle is to go and have good hand hygiene. So it is catch it, bin it, and kill it.
Chale. No, I like this. Catch it, bin it, and kill it. Wow,
yes.
Interesting.
So you're catching it with your tissue, you're binning it into the dustbin, and you're killing it by what?
Washing your hands. Wow.
So it's important that we have this, and then we are always advising people to do this to break the cycle of transmission. Need be, because of the fact that most of the time it's because of the droplets that you tend to have. And then also people should try as much as possible not to use their fingers, unwashed fingers around their faces, their mouth, their eyes, because these are mucous membranes that you can easily transmit some of these infections to these areas. So coming to rhinosinusitis, which is one of the complications that it can lead to, your common cold can lead to rhinosinusitis. Most of the time it has to do with the duration. So common cold, 7 to 10 days, you should be fine. The body should have been able to overcome the infection. But then if you have persistent, as I said, dripping of the nose, postnasal drip, you have the congestion, that is more than or about 10 days and beyond to 30 days, then you should be looking at something else. It's likely that you may be looking at a subacute form of rhinosinusitis. Or if it goes beyond the 30 days, then we are looking at, or if it goes all the way to about 3 months, having these symptoms for about 3 months, then we are looking at chronic rhinosinusitis. And all of these have complications. The complications are that it can easily spread to the eye and then give you something we call orbital cellulitis. So the eye has various functions. One of them is for us to be able to see, and there are very important structures that pass through the eye. The eye has a bony socket through which it is actually cushioned. And within that bony socket, you tend to have something with their nerves. So you have your optic nerve, you have so many other important or vital structures. So if you have infection going there, you can imagine what can happen. The end point could even lead to blindness. The other thing is that it can lead to, the eye is connected directly, the roof of the eye is directly connected to your brain. So it can go to your brain as well. And that can lead to intracranial extensions.
That sounds serious. So while,
exactly.
While the common cold in itself is not really devastating in its effects or consequences, it's
some of the complications
could be very fatal.
Exactly. Once you have your immunity is low, that means that is either somebody who has maybe HIV, or somebody who is malnourished, or somebody who is on steroids, or somebody who has maybe a cancer that is being treated on chemo or radiation. You know, all of these tend to reduce your immunity to the barest minimum. And some of these infections can lead to rhinosinusitis, and rhinosinusitis has its own complications that I have just mentioned.
I never thought of it like this.
Because I'm like very susceptible to cold. So when I see someone, I try to distance myself.
Exactly.
Because in like the next couple of minutes, I'll also start sneezing, my nose starts feeling funny.
Exactly.
But are there people like me who we're not necessarily sick, but the minute someone has a cold, you know, we're catching
so there are a group of people like that, those who have hypersensitivity, so they have allergies. So it's not only, so that brings us to something else called allergic rhinitis, where it's not only the infective causes like the viruses, the bacteria, but then also certain allergens within our environments. So certain allergens, let's say it could be that it's a pollen somewhere, could be a very strong smell. It could be dust. It could be that there's some particular material within the environment, like pollutants, that can easily trigger and then lead you to getting an allergic reaction. You get to such people also tend to have a very hypersensitized body, in the sense that their immunoglobulins tend to react much more compared to others who do not have these hypersensitized environments or reactions. You get it, exactly. So that's why, aside, some people, it's not only the viruses or the bacteria.
Right.
Okay, you can end up having some allergens also triggering, and then you end up having these allergic rhinitis as well, which can also mimic common cold and then what have you.
I've never really thought of common cold in that light before, right? Because every now and then you get to like 5 days, you're fine, there's some discomfort, but it eases out, right?
I don't get it for 5 days, trust me, so I stay away as much as possible.
Exactly.
Yeah, but I didn't know the lengths to which it could be very, very dangerous for you. Wow.
Exactly.
So, Doc, all you then say it's the difference between those who have sinuses, right? Because I have a friend and like he's always like rubbing the nose, itchy. So so at the point he thought it was an allergic reaction, until later told me that he went to get it checked and everything was sinuses or something like that. So what then is the difference? Because I think the symptoms look quite the same.
Yes, so that's what I was trying to explain from the beginning. That when you have rhinosinusitis and then when you have common cold, the difference has to do with the symptoms that I mentioned. So if you have, let's say, and the duration, common cold, 7 to 10 days, you should be fine. But if you have cold that is extending from 10 days to 30 days, sometimes 30 days to 3 months, sometimes beyond 3 months, then you can categorize them as acute, subacute, and then a chronic rhinosinusitis. And classically, as I said, you should have the rhinorrhea or the dripping, the discharge from your nose. You should also have the stuffiness within your sinuses. It means that your sinuses are inflamed and they are blocked. You should have the postnasal dripping within the mouth. And then also, it's likely that you have some pain or tenderness around the face. And it has to be diagnosed. That would mean that we would have to take some CT scans, they are x-rays, specialized x-rays, that will typically tell you that there is rhinosinusitis. There are typical signs that you can pick up from the x-ray that will tell you that this person has rhinosinusitis. And then also we can do something we call the flexible nasoendoscopes, where a flexible camera is passed through your nose.
I can only imagine. Is it painful?
And then you go down there and
I remember the early days of the COVID check. Wow. Doc, we have a message here for you, very important message. It says that every time my child goes to school and comes back with a cold, it's accompanied with high temperature. Can Doc please touch on it, and at what point should I seek medical help?
Okay, yes. So definitely, yes, you'd have high temperatures with some of these common colds. But as I said, if we are sure it's common cold, we need to actually give it time because it's self-limiting. So give it about 7 days, give it at most 10 days. If these symptoms and signs are persisting, then you need to quickly take this child to the hospital to have it checked by a medical professional. Whilst at home, some of the things that you can do is the hand hygiene. As I said, catch it, bin it, and kill it. And then some of the things too that you can do is hydrate this child as much as possible because they are losing water. Make sure that the child is eating well so that the immunity will be, the immune cells or the immune system would be built to be able to fight these infections. So eating balanced diets, making sure that the patient is hydrating, eating balanced diet. Then you can have some of these analgesics or painkillers to help lessen the pain that this child is. And then another thing could be that you see, because they are children, they tend to share a lot of things. They are not mindful of
boundaries,
their environment. Yes. So maybe having a chat with the school authorities could also be of help in the sense that wherever the children are kept should be well aerated so that air moves in and air moves out. In the sense that you don't have stale air within
the space.
And then when any of these children are found to have these, should quickly isolated and be treated so that they don't end up infecting the rest of the children.
About the treatment a little bit more.
I'm
assuming that the treatment for the common cold and the rhinosinusitis are slightly different?
Yeah, they are slightly different. So for the rhinosinusitis, common cold, as I have said, you treat the symptoms. Headache, you give some analgesics. Hydrate, make sure you boost your immunity, vitamin C, taking a lot of oranges or citrus containing fruits, okay, to boost your immunity to help you fight the infection. But when it comes to rhinosinusitis, as I said, you categorize them. So if it's acute, usually you would want to give antibiotics. So you want to give broad spectrum antibiotic, the amoxiclav. And then you would want to you want to give some analgesics as well to help reduce the pain. And then the regular hydrations. And you want to give some steroids to help decongest the sinuses. So those are also available, topical steroids that you can give to help decongest and dry up the sinuses. Now, after treating, if you do these treatments and the patient is not, or the patient moves, still becomes worse and starts showing signs and symptoms of these complications that I have mentioned, like the orbital cellulitis, like the facial cellulitis, and then intracranial extensions, giving you signs and symptoms of sometimes even meningitis, okay, then you would want to be more extensive. You move on to the surgical treatment, where you would have to go in with neurosurgery, with ENT and ophthalmology and all of it. It's a multidisciplinary approach kind of treatment. But if it is chronic, let's say the patient comes in after 3 months, you still want to start with the medical treatments, the antibiotics, the steroids, and then the analgesics. Then you would move on to the surgical treatment as well, if need be. The surgical treatment, at least for now, there's something we call the endoscopes that I was talking about. So functional endoscopic sinus surgeries, where you don't have to open up the sinuses and then do the treatment, but rather you use your camera and then go in and then examine both for examination and therapeutic.
Is this happening here?
Yes, it is happening in Kolebu.
That sounds impressive.
Yes.
But only in Kolebu.
Yes. No, well, I'm not sure of setting, maybe they are setting, or there are some private health facilities that can offer it, but I'm for sure in Kolebu, yes, it's happening.
Sounds
you can
impressive.
you can have that treatment then. So, I mean, as I said, it depends on the diagnosis. So if you have it, or you have a common cold that is not resolving, after 7 to 10 days, please seek medical help.
7 to 10 days?
Yes, 7 to 10 days. Seek medical help and let's have it diagnosed properly. Is it acute rhinosinusitis or is it something else, so that we prevent the complications that come with it.
Thank you so much, Dr. Adam.
Thank you too. It's always nice to be here and it's always nice to share, you know. I hope we've learned one or two things.
You know the funny thing, it's like more often it's like it's for our viewers, right? But I think I probably
end up learning so much.
And I go out and like I see somebody doing something. So for example, when we spoke, I forgot the topic, but I think he talked about alcohol and its intake. So like I'm hanging out with people and they are drinking and I'm like, guys, no, relax. So thank you so much.
Welcome.
We're learning a lot.
For availing yourself.
Our viewers are also learning a lot as well.